So we have to say a special good morning to a gentleman who joins us every Tuesday morning as long as he's available. This, of course, is Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM, His Excellency David Comissiong. Good morning to you. Welcome again.
Morning, Tisha. It's a good way to spend a Tuesday morning.
I agree thoroughly. All right, so today we want to take a look at freedom of movement. There has been much movement in that area by way of the Caribbean heads meeting and deciding a way forward. Most countries have signed on.
Yes, we had hoped to accomplish it, full freedom of movement, that is, by the 31st of March this year. And the heads of government had agreed at the 50th anniversary conference last year that they wanted to achieve this very important symbolic victory during the 50th anniversary year. We haven't quite achieved it yet. There's still some technical things that we're working on. But realistically, if people really think about it, the 2 points I want to make. First of all, we used to have full freedom of movement before. When we were all members of the British Empire, before we got our individual independent statuses, we were free to move from Barbados to Trinidad to Jamaica, etc., as members, as colonies of Britain. And then when we established the Federation in 1958, we were, in a sense, one nation, although a colonial nation. We had freedom of movement. The Federation collapsed in 1962. And what we have been trying to do ever since the collapse of the Federation in 1962, and then we all went into independence singularly, what we've been trying to do is to find our way back to the kind of unity that we had during the Federation period, but doing it gradually, not through a political union, but through trade arrangements like CARIFTA, and then through the various economic arrangements of CARICOM. So right now, what we do have right now is the Skills National Programme, and truth be told, Tisha, if you really, everybody could locate themselves under one of those categories of skills. So to a large extent, especially now that the heads of government have clarified all 12 definitions of skills, we have virtual freedom of movement. But what we want is that big symbolic gesture when we all declare, look, we are not afraid of our CARICOM neighbors. They're free to move, and that's what we're still striving. We're still striving to accomplish that.
Let's talk a little bit more about the Skills National Program and how people can benefit from this program.
Yeah, well, from the time we established the CARICOM, we revised the Treaty of Chaguaramas to establish the Caribbean community, except the Bahamas. We have had the Skills National Program. It first started with 4 categories of skill, very, very modest, university graduates, media personnel, I think sports persons, and maybe artisans. But over the years, it has been expanded. So we are now at 12 categories. And the latest categories have been domestic workers, agricultural workers, and private security officers. And the heads of government, because the technical people were finding it so difficult to establish a proper definition of domestic workers, the heads of government took it in their hands, and the definition of domestic workers now is very expansive, Tisha. Basically, it is a person who works as a caregiver for elderly persons within a home situation, or persons with disabilities within a home situation, or a person who looks after children within a private home situation. So you can see that is a very broad definition, and people can easily qualify under that if they've had some experience of doing those kinds of functions. And, they can present some testimonials testifying, yes, this person has experience performing these functions. Then there's agricultural workers, people engaged in farming, people engaged in livestock, livestock rearing. Again, very broad, and once again, they don't need special qualifications. Yes, if you have special qualifications, that will qualify you, but if you have practical experience and you can certify that you have practical experience, you can qualify. So, and so the point is, the two biggest categories by far that tend to be utilized are university graduates and associate degree holders. In fact, I came armed with some statistics to give you an idea. So these are statistics pertaining to Barbados. These are statistics between the year 2010 and 2023, last year, a period of 14 years. And this will give you some idea. So the CARICOM Nationals that kind of came into Barbados over that 14-year period with their CARICOM Skilled Certificates and got their certificates verified in Barbados, obviously to live and work in Barbados. There was a total of 1,288 CARICOM Nationals who verified skilled certificates in Barbados. And of that 1,288, 897 were university graduates, dominated by graduates and associate degree holders. And the other statistic would be the persons who acquired CARICOM Skilled Certificates in Barbados. So this would be largely, a majority would be Barbadians, but also there's some CARICOM Nationals who actually get their skilled certificate in Barbados. So, you can get your skilled certificate in any CARICOM country. So over that 14-year period, there were 3,181 skilled certificates issued by our Barbados Accreditation Council right here in Barbados. And again, of those, 1,890 were university graduates, 60%, and 471 were associate degree holders. That is, people with associate degrees from a community college or two Cape certificates. So again, an average of 227 persons per year, and the number of persons granted reside and work in Barbados during that said period. So that's a combination of skilled certificates, people who come under the rights of establishment, they come to set up a business, or even illegals who have had their stay regularized by the Immigration Department. 3,793. That works out to 271 persons per year.
On average.
So, pretty modest. So although we've had this Skills National program for several years now, the number of persons actually traveling, who coming into Barbados under it is relatively a modest number. And we need to think of these statistics, Tisha, against the background of Barbados's population needs, because that's the other part of the picture that we need to talk about. Even though Barbados is the most densely populated island nation in CARICOM, we still have a serious population deficit in that we are now experiencing a situation where we are not reproducing our population through live births. and we have a declining population growth, and we are finding now that our population has moved in the direction of an increasing number of persons in the senior citizen category, and less persons entering the active young working category. So if we don't correct this, we are going to find ourselves where we have an untenable situation where we don't have enough younger people working and paying national insurance and paying taxes to help maintain the growing number of retirees, elderly persons who we need to support.
I think we need to get Barbadians outside of university graduates into the frame of mind that it goes both ways. A lot of the times when we think about or talk about freedom of movement, particularly on the call-in programs where you listen in, a lot of people talk about people moving into Barbados, but they don't consider that the same opportunities are available for Barbadians to be able to get their skills certificates and consider work throughout the region as well for the countries that have signed on to it.
Yeah, well, this is really the whole idea of the freedom of movement idea within CARICOM. It is that we are striving to build one regional economy, one single domestic space where if there are opportunities in any part of the region, that people can move and explore those opportunities. If there are needs, so a country might have a need for skilled workers in a particular area, that people can come in. So yes, you would want to encourage Barbadians. I mean, Barbados is the CARICOM country that has probably done most to develop its human resource capacity. I mean, we have invested heavily in education and vocational training, training in the arts, etc. So Barbadians are probably better equipped to make use of the Skilled Nationals Programme than people from any other CARICOM country. And yes, I mean, we perhaps need to promote it more, and go out there, find opportunities for yourselves. But I want to say to Barbadians that, we really should not fear freedom of movement within CARICOM, because as I started, if we think about it, this is not something new. It is something that our parents and our grandparents, they had as British colonies, and so we are simply trying to get back to that. But as the figures themselves will show you, people coming in, CARICOM nationals coming into Barbados to live and work in Barbados, are not a detriment to Barbados. It's really a benefit to Barbados, because we do have this overarching population program. Back in the 1950s and early 1960s, there used to be over 7,000 live births in Barbados, Tisha. By 2017, we were down to 2,500. The last year that we, through live births, reproduced our population in Barbados was 1980. So from 1980, if we had no inward migration from 1980, our population would have been on a downward trend. It is only since 1980, it is only people coming in that has caused our population to increase slightly. And if we had maintained the reproducing our population, if from 1980 we had continued to reproduce our population just barely by natural means, by now the Barbados population would have been in excess of 360,000 persons. Instead, it is at 280,000. So whatever little benefit we can get from the CARICOM Skills Nationals Programme, or even full freedom of movement, whatever benefit we can get from people coming in, adding to our workforce, we should be thankful for that, because it is really helping us to solve an overarching problem. But of course, that alone is not going to solve the population problem, I think government has said that they're going to come with a comprehensive, population policy, immigration policy to address that problem. But this helps a little bit. This does help a little bit.
Absolutely. What about people who have questions about cultural differences? What would you say to them to quell their fears? Not only cultural differences, but often we have many things that are similar, but there's much discussion a lot of the times about the differences of other Caribbean nationals and the movement, and also is there continual or concerted effort to get the other nations that have not signed on to become signatory to the free movement?
Mm-hmm. Well, in terms of cultural, the way I look at it, if it is, and we are going to have to address this population deficit, if we have to think of people that we would wish to come into Barbados to strengthen our population, I think first of all we would think of members of the Barbadian diaspora. That's the first thing, the children and the grandchildren of Barbadians abroad, to entice them to repatriate to Barbados. But after the descendants of Barbadians, the next logical group would be our Caribbean, our CARICOM brothers and sisters, because they share so much in common with us culturally. So to my way of thinking, if we are going to encourage people to come and live and work and help strengthen our population here in Barbados, we want to focus on our Caribbean brothers and sisters, because we have so much in common. And yes, you're quite right. I mean, it is a benefit to a country to have at its core a solid national and cultural identity. That is a source of strength. So I would say that CARICOM Nationals, we don't have to fear that. We share so much in common that they will help to solidify that Barbadian nationality. In fact, George Lamin used to say, I can best appreciate my Barbadian identity when I place it within the context of the overarching CARICOM cultural identity. In terms of moving now from the Skills National to the full freedom of movement, this is where we no longer depend on, you don't have to prove that you have a particular skill. We just say, look, once you are a CARICOM citizen, we all have the right to move across CARICOM, to live and work without the need for work permits, etc. So that's what we're trying to move to. And that's what we were hoping to achieve by March of this year. We're still working on it because there are some technical problems. Haiti is not participating in that full freedom of movement, and for obvious reasons, all of the instability in Haiti, the fact that it just really has a failed economy at this point, a lot of desperate people. So that would prove problematical. So Haiti is not participating. Antigua and Barbuda is also not participating for different reasons, but they have explained why they think they would not wish to come in at this point. But and of course the Bahamas have never been part of this single market and economy, so they're out. But all the others have indicated that they will be participating. And but the little sticking points now are, we need to get agreement on persons moving. Will it be obligatory that they must move under a CARICOM passport? Some countries are saying no. We need to get away from insisting that people have to only move under a passport. Then there are some little technical difficulties in terms of, okay, if you move, we are saying that you and your dependents must have access to primary and secondary education on the same terms as citizens of the country that you move to. You must have access to emergency and primary health care on the same terms as the citizens of the country that you move to. And there's some little difficulties in agreeing on the definition of primary health care, agreeing on the definition of emergency health care. Then there's a question of economic migrants. Some of our CARICOM countries have this citizenship by investment, where you can actually buy citizenship. So the question is still up for determination. Will free movement apply to economic citizens? Some countries are saying no, we're not willing to accept that. And then there's the issue of pertaining to Guyana in particular. Guyana has its new petroleum industry. It has passed legislation reserving a lot of this petroleum business to Guyanese. So the question is, how will that fit with the free movement regime? So I was the chairman of a task force that was charged with working out the full freedom of movement regime and working out the revisions to the treaty to put it in place. So we did that work, but then these little technical difficulties came up, and right now the heads of government are charged with discussing and working through those little technical difficulties. So hopefully the next CARICOM Heads of Government Conference will be in Barbados in February of next year, and it is my hope that by then we will be able to confirm at that Barbados conference that the little technical difficulties that have stopped us from fully realizing the full free movement regime, that we will be able to announce at that conference that we have solved all of those and the regime is in effect.
All right, excellent. So definitely some more information on what you can do if you're interested. All of a sudden, you know, your job prospects don't only have to be here in Barbados. So thanks as always, Ambassador, for coming in and sharing with us, shedding some light on what's happening across the region and here in Barbados.
My pleasure, Tisha.
Morning, morning, morning.